Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andy Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're talking about my Week 6 tight end starter sits for the 2019 fantasy football season. On today's episode, we're going to be going over the matchups at the tight end position, how much defenses are giving to opposing tight ends on a weekly basis on average in half-point PPR scoring formats, then talking about my top 12 tight end rankings, my tight end ones on the week. Before we get into that, let me remind all of you, if you haven't yet already, click that subscribe button, join the community, and also click the bell notification button to stay up to date on my latest content. It notifies you when my latest videos are out, live streams are up, and much more. Also, if you haven't yet already, click this like button on today's video because I also do appreciate it. Thank you. And hey guys, how's it going? All right, so before we begin today's video, really quickly, if you haven't yet, go check out the quarterback video because to start the video, I do mention a couple things in terms of injuries, people practicing and not. I don't really want to repeat it, so go check that out in the first 3 minutes of the video. I'll talk about injuries Thursday night, etc. So thank you. Moving on, let's talk about some matchups at the tight end position, shall we? Because we all know tight ends, you typically only own one. But the biggest thing is that Evan Ingram's out this week, and there's also Darren Waller on a bye week. Devlin Knox, is it Knox? Devlin? I don't know. It's Knox from the Bills is out, so potentially if you were playing him somehow, I don't know why you would, but he's always a potential. Who else is on a bye week? No one was playing Trey Burton, God no, and then Eric Ebron's out. So there's a couple tight ends that are missing this week, and going over some matchups could give you a little bit more inspiration to play some other guys. So really quickly, number one, Arizona Cardinals giving up the most points to opposing tight ends. That's not a surprise. Therefore, Austin Hooper is probably going to have another monster game and sustain his ranking as the number one tight end. It just hurts to say it. It's incredible, right? I mean, it's not far-fetched considering where he ended last year as the number 6 tight end in fantasy, but it's crazy that he's been so consistent as of late. Also, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers giving up a lot of points to opposing tight ends in the last couple weeks have gotten a lot of points scored on them at the position. Jared Cook, who did nothing all season long, was relevant last week. The week before that, Gerald Everett was pretty good. We saw Greg Olsen earlier this season have a monster game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even having broken his nose during that game. So we're going to probably see another good game from Greg Olsen, which he needs because he's been pretty much irrelevant in the last 2 weeks. Going on, the Colts are on a bye week. The Seahawks, I'm not really worried about Ricky Seals-Jones. The Tennessee Titans have almost given up a touchdown every single game this season. I think it's only one game that they didn't, but they've been pretty poor against opposing tight ends, which gives the ability of potentially playing Noah Fant into the matchup. I don't mind that at all. I think Fant has been decent. He gets a pretty good share of snaps on a weekly basis, but in terms of targets, they never really look to him very often. If they go ahead and you're feeling yourself, maybe you want to play a guy like Noah Fant because you're struggling at tight end. That's always an option. Moving on, the Miami Dolphins always giving up points to every position. Vernon Davis will probably play, even though he's in concussion protocol. We'll probably get through that. The Browns playing against Disley. Disley's going to have a good week. Oakland's on a bye week. We have the Chiefs giving up a lot of points to opposing tight ends. Now, the issue with the Houston Texans tight end situation is that you never really know who's going to score the tight end. Now, we've seen games in which, Atkins scored 2 touchdowns and Fells scored 2 touchdowns, and it should be a higher scoring matchup, right? There's always the ability that because of the fact that Fells is the blocking tight end, is on the field so often, he could be another one of these red zone threats, similar to last week, catch a ball over a shorter, secondary cornerback safety, and have himself a touchdown. It's always a possibility. The Cowboys giving up some points to the tight end position. The question is whether or not Chris Herndon's going to play. Quick information on that. Chris Herndon, I think it was like a grade 1 hamstring injury last Friday. Probably he's not going to play this week. It's unfortunate, but now we're only hearing about it, so he probably won't play this week. All right, tougher matchups at the tight end position doesn't really matter because if you have a top tight end, you're typically going to play them. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's talk about my top 12 tight ends on the week. Starting off with number 1, Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce will forever be number 1. I have a hard time. I mean, listen, there's a good chance that Austin Hooper should probably be number 1 because he probably will finish as the number 1 tight end this week. There's always a chance of that. And it's probably my mistake by not having him there. But Travis Kelce, in my opinion, I would start him over Austin Hooper this week. It might sound crazy, but I would do it. That's just the way I'm going to roll. I'm always going to play Travis Kelce over Austin Hooper because I trust Travis Kelce more. The consistency of work throughout his career leads me to believe that Travis Kelce is not going to stay in this rut and the Chiefs offense is not going to stay in this rut. And once he has his breakout game, it's over. He's going to be good going that way. And I think there's always a potential that this week could be that week. All right, moving on. Number 2, George Kittle. Came back with a vengeance after that bye week. Like I mentioned for the last couple of weeks, hopefully Kyle Shanahan has a long, hard, thinking session on the toilet during, that bye week. And he thinks to himself, okay, who's my number 1 receiver? And he finally comes to the realization, once again, that George Kittle is his number 1 wide receiver. He did exactly that. The thing is, George Kittle in the past has destroyed the Rams defense. Last season, just go check out his stats. Scored a touchdown in each of the games. Had a game in which he even had over 100 receiving yards. The guy has been a monster against the Rams in the past. And this Rams defense has not looked good against the passing game. The linebackers have not looked good. And I really do think George Kittle, another big week on hand. Past his bye week, the guy's going to be a top 3-guy rest away. Moving on to number 3, Will Disley. The amount of work he's getting, absolutely fantastic against the Browns this week. Another great play. Now that I'm sitting here and thinking about it, maybe I should have had Austin Hooper at number 1. Maybe I should have just bit the bullet and just went with it. Either way, you're starting on Austin Hooper. I know we're talking about Will Disley, but again, you're starting with Will Disley. As soon as you've picked him up, the dude has been a 10-point, 15-point tight end every week. So obviously you're starting him. But real talk, Austin Hooper maybe should be number 1. Now I'm beginning to regret it, but it's okay. I'm not going to re-record this video. I'm not going to redo my rankings. I'm just going to let you know right now that Austin Hooper against the Cardinals, in a matchup in which the Falcons are looking for a win so badly that they'll do anything. Julio Jones, dealing with a little bit of an injury here and there. Austin Hooper's on pace for having maybe another 21-point game. It's always a possibility. If he catches a touchdown, I'm not surprised. Man, and the amount of targets that Austin Hooper has gotten in the last couple of weeks, he's up there as one of the elite tight ends. Anyway, he's my number 4. Moving on to number 5, Zach Ertz. Here's the thing about Ertz. Outside of him and Alshon, there's nobody else. There really is nobody else in that offense. So going forward, 10-plus points a week, upside of a touchdown, hopefully sees more targets. Zach Ertz is trending in the right direction. Perfectly fine at having him at number 5. Moving on to number 6, Mark Andrews. Every week, questionable, and then he plays. Perfectly fine. Just hasn't been great since week 1 and 2. A lot of inconsistency as of late. Needs to find the end zone. Needs to score a touchdown. The guys above him, far more greater possibility that they find the end zone than him this week. Even though it is a Bengals matchup that should be easy for them. And if Marquise Brown is out, Mark Andrews will typically see more targets on that weekly basis. So hopefully Marquise Brown isn't out. But if it's the case, which is probably trending towards that, Mark Andrews is going to see a lot of targets. Hopefully he gets back to that 8 targets, 8 reception kind of game, especially for those of you in a PPR. He's my number 6. Moving on to number 7, Greg Olsen. All right, Greg Olsen, you get to play against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You had over 100 receiving yards against them last time. Yes, the quarterback change is different, but it's not really a big deal. I think either way, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, secondary and linebackers cannot cover. They've proven that in the last couple of weeks, whether it's the Rams, whether it's the 4 touchdowns from Teddy Bridgewater, or it's Kyle Allen going to London. I think they're going to have a good matchup. I think Greg Olsen is going to be a big contributor in this game and hopefully be the key catalyst of this passing offense outside of a guy like McCaffrey, because they really need some juice in the passing game so they can get stuff going. So he's my number 7. Moving on to number 8, Gerald Everett. Gerald Everett, last 2 weeks, fantastic against Tampa Bay, fantastic against the Seahawks. This week, gets to play against the 49ers. 49ers defense kind of scares me a little bit, but if in fact, Gerald Everett's going to continue, here's the thing. The Rams need to continue to score to win because their defense is pretty much killing them. So they're often going to be put into situations in which they have to consistently come out and try to score by passing the ball. And Everett, unfortunately, isn't going to see as many targets as some of these other guys like Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods, but in the last couple of weeks has been one of his most favorite, or Jared Goff's favorite targets. Hopefully that trend continues. He's my number 8, especially as a guy that has been picked up off waivers. Not a bad option. Moving on to number 9, Jimmy Graham. Here's the thing about Jimmy Graham. If Devontae Adams is out, Jimmy Graham still another great option. The question is whether or not Jimmy Graham scores a touchdown. We can definitely see Jimmy Graham catch the ball 4 times for 45 yards and have an 8-point fantasy game in PPR, or something less, or 6-point fantasy game in half PPR. But we want that touchdown. We want 10 points out of Jimmy Graham, and I think he's capable of doing that going forward because of Jimmy Graham actually played pretty well last week. In terms of blocking, you saw a lot of Jimmy Graham pancaking some people out there, which hopefully keeps him on the field longer because he's a more viable blocking threat. And then eventually he can, hit, chip block, leak out, find extra work in the passing game. He's my number 9. Moving on to number 10, TJ Hockenson. I'm assuming TJ Hockenson is going to play. I think he's trending towards the correct direction, and he's probably going to find himself playing this week. Therefore, I want to play him against the Packers in the matchup. In terms of options for Matthew Stafford, he's one of them. Outside of week 1, Danny Amendola disappeared. And then since then, it's pretty much been Galladay, Kerryon Johnson, Marvin Jones, TJ Hockenson. As long as Hockenson stays healthy, doesn't try to hurdle someone and flip and land on his neck, he should be fine. Obviously, again, we're waiting on whether or not he's going to play. If he doesn't play, we go to another option. We don't play Jesse James. We do not do that. All right, moving on to number 11, Delanie Walker. Delanie Walker, speaking of not playing well in the last couple weeks, similar to Greg Olsen, has kind of disappeared as of late. You would think that in an offense that is so heavy on tight ends, using Jonnu Smith, using him, using another tight end for blocking reasons, just to kind of help Derrick Henry, you would think Delanie Walker would get some work in the play action, but really hasn't seen much as of late. Plays against Denver. I don't think this is a beautiful matchup or anything of that sort where he's going to have an easy way to go. I think a lot of Delanie Walker's production is reliable on targets, and if he's not seeing those targets, then we're not going to really see too much of Delanie Walker from a couple years past where he was consistently putting up 10 points. So maybe those days are over. Hopefully they can get back to it. I'm thinking he might see a couple targets here and there, maybe like 5 catches, 40 some odd yards, be a decent play, and that's why he sits at 11. All right, moving on to number 12, Jason Witten. It's a toss-up between like Jason Witten and Vernon Davis. Now, Vernon Davis probably will play against Miami. That's a really good matchup. Jason Witten sits here because he's just reliable. If in fact he didn't fumble, against the Saints, his points go up. The guy's putting up like 6 points a week. If that's what you really need and you're struggling for it, then that's where you go. Otherwise, there are guys like Jared Cook that you could take the gamble on against Jacksonville. There are guys like Noah Fant that you could take the gamble on against the Tennessee Titans. Maybe Hunter Henry somehow plays this week. O.J. Howard always has the potential. I know Byron Leftwich came out and said, hey, O.J. Howard, is going to get his eventually. We'll see. He's not. He can't even block. I think compared to all 68 eligible tight ends, he's the worst blocking tight end. Therefore, he's not going to be on the field as much. Cameron Brate's going to be out there. He's going to be more of a receiving option. Maybe even Tyler Eifert has an opportunity this week. Outside of that, I'm trying to think. Maybe Dallas Goedert. Again, there are a lot of names. There are a lot of guys in the National Football League, Blake Jarwin. But either way, here we go. Jason Witten's at 12. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Short video, as usual. Man, I really should have put Austin Hooper a little bit higher. But you know what? It's all good. He's going to be good either way. You're probably starting him either way, so that's perfectly fine. Thank you again for watching, guys. Until tomorrow, which will be probably Hidden Gems, I will see you. Thank you for watching again. Don't forget to click the like button, and that's pretty much it. So again, until I see you guys, Sunday live stream, 8:30 a.m. Don't forget to be there or be square. Later, guys.